this hearing of the Minnesota Senate Taxes Committee, Thursday, February 20th at 9 a.m. A quorum is present. Members have the minutes from February 19th. Are there corrections or additions? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as presented. The first bill on our agenda is Senate File 13, Senator Mitchell. Senator Mitchell, welcome to the committee. You bring us Senate File 13. This is a bill that we've, as are some of the others, considered last year, and I offered to indicate that support to all of those by being a co-author. So you'll see my name on a number of them. So Senator Mitchell, if you would just explain I think the heart of your bill is simply in the subdivision 1 in terms of what the project is. And if you would explain and refer to that language.
Thank you, Chair Rest and members of the Tax Committee for hearing this bill this morning. This bill relates to a new water treatment facility and water tower based on the fact that the East Metro, particularly Woodbury, has had problems with pollution PFAS in our water. Section 1, as asked, Subdivision 1, Part A, exempts supplies and materials used in the construction, reconstruction, upgrades, expansion, renovation, and remodeling of our Woodbury water treatment facility, water tower, and the pipelines. Section 1, Subdivision 1, Part B, directs the tax to be collected, then refunded. Also in Section 2, it directs the appropriation of the Department of Revenue for the refund. And finally, the bill has an effective date of January 31st, 2024 through December 1st, 2028. Madam Chair, we hope you and the committee can help reduce the project costs for the citizens of Woodbury by allowing this public water infrastructure to be exempt from sales tax. And Chair Rex, I have the Public Works Director for Woodbury with me, Mary Van Milligan. And if you would like testimony on the project, she is here for that. Thank you.
Welcome to the committee, Ms. Van Milligan. If you state your name for the record, we welcome any brief comments you have.
Thank you, Senator Rest. Mary Van Milligan. Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators, for allowing the City of Woodbury to come before you today. I'm Mary Van Milligan, the Director of Public Works for the City of Woodbury. I would like to begin by thanking Senator Nicole Mitchell for her support in assisting the City of Woodbury on this issue. I would also like to extend our gratefulness to Chair Rest for the recognition and care you have shown Woodbury over the years with the needs that we have faced, particularly with this issue. The City of Woodbury has been focused on issues related to water for over a decade. Water conservation and protecting this precious natural resource has long been a top priority for the city. We've taken action to protect this resource by implementing practices such as a tiered water rate structure, where people pay more as they increase their use, restrictive lawn watering policies, and irrigation efficiency incentive programs have saved 143 million gallons of water annually. Water quantity remains one of our priorities. However, over time, water quality has emerged as a top issue in Woodbury due to the discovery of PFAS in our water system. The City of Woodbury has taken proactive steps to address this issue by building several temporary water treatment facilities to continue to deliver the highest quality water possible to our residents and businesses. In the meantime, we are currently moving forward with constructing a long-term PFAS treatment solution through the eventual completion of a permanent water treatment plant, water tower, and corresponding 17 miles of pipe. While the 3M settlement fund will cover a good portion of the construction, the city is still facing a significant funding gap of up to $35 million to complete these projects. The city is doing everything we can to reduce the burden placed on our residents by this situation brought by an outside entity. Eliminating the sales tax on city-funded materials, supplies, and equipment used in the construction of our water treatment plant, water tower, and pipelines would be a step in that direction. Therefore, on behalf of the City of Woodbury, I humbly ask that you pass SF 13, which provides a refundable exemption for these construction materials. We're aware that this type of request has been granted for many public facilities and appreciate your support with this common sense tax policy to help the city of Woodbury reduce the cost for this much needed project. An infographic of the project is in your materials. And again, thank you, Madam Chair and Senators and members for your consideration of this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Van Milligan. Are there questions or comments for the witness or Senator Mitchell? Seeing none, thank you very much. Senate File 13 will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. The next bill on the agenda is Senate File 945, Senator Dahms. Welcome back to the committee, Senator Dahms.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair.
Please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and today I'm presenting Bill Senate File Number 945, and this is a bill for the Redwood Area Independent School District for refunding of the sales and use tax exemption for construction materials. Under subdivision 1, it kind of explains what this would be for. It's for materials, supplies used for, or consumed in an equipment incorporated into the construction, reconstruction, upgrade, expansion, renovation, or remodeling of Redwood Valley Independent School District Elementary School for District 2897. In this case, it is for the construction of a new building, and the materials, supplies, and equipment need to be purchased after March 11th, 2024, up through the time of September 9th, 2026. And Madam Chair, today we have two testifiers. We have Becky Slavoski, who is the superintendent, and Tom Anderson, who is the finance director.
Thank you, Senator Dahms. Welcome to the committee. Superintendent, if you'd like to begin by identifying yourself.
Yes, my name is Becky Chalofsky. I'm the superintendent for Redwood Area School District. And welcome, thank you for having us this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to present, and we also thank Mr. Dahms for supporting this bill. We are located in Redwood Falls, Minnesota, and we are here to ask your support on the sales tax exemption for our new Redwood Valley Elementary Building project. The provision of a sales tax exemption on construction materials will help ensure that our district can utilize the approved taxpayer dollars to better meet the needs of our students, teachers, staff, and community. Public schools are foundationally the success and well-being to most communities, and Redwood Falls is no exception. Schools continue to face increasing pressures, and the cost of construction, renovation, and maintenance is often a significant challenge. For our district, this project and these funds are a one-time opportunity to meet the needs of our district. For Redwood area, a rebate on sales tax would allow our district to invest in more tangible program space and teaching and learning enhancements for our youngest learners. This would also benefit our lifelong learners and our community as a whole. So I thank you for your time and your.
Would you like to add your comments? If so, please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Tom Anderson. I'm the finance director at Redwood Area Schools. I'd like to thank Chair Rest and the committee, as well as Senator Dahms for having us here today. Just to echo on Ms. Chalosky's comments, this would be a once-in-a-generation opportunity for our district to get back some sales tax revenue to the district to better enhance the education and really the community in general. With the school district being a main hub within Redwood Falls, we can make investments directly into educational programs, better classrooms, modern technology, expanded spaces. And with this amount, if it were to go through, it would bring over $1 million back to Redwood area schools. So we thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Are there any questions for Senator Dahms, the superintendent, or the finance director? Seeing none, Senator Dahms, do you have any final comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. We do appreciate your consideration of Senate File 945.
Thank you very much. Senator Dahms, Senate File 945 will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus Senate tax bill. The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 67, Senator Mathews. If you're here, okay. Senator Mathews brings us Senate File 67 on behalf of the City of Becker. Senator Mathews.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for hearing Senate File 67 this morning for the City of Becker. I'll briefly describe the bill before turning it over to my testifier. Section 1, Subdivision 1A, provides an exemption of the materials used in the construction of a city hall, and to the extent not already exempted by statute, a police station between the dates of May 31, 2024 and May 1st, 2025. 1B provides that the tax be issued as a refund, and Subdivision 2 appropriates funds to the Commissioner of Revenue for the refund. This new city hall and police station will be important to adequately serving the residents of Becker. With me is Mayor Mark Kolbinger to testify.
Members, there's a handout from the City of Becker as well as the revenue estimate. Any questions of Senator Mathews before we proceed to his testimony? Seeing none, Mayor, welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record, please present your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Taxes Committee. My name is Mark Kolbinger, and I'm the mayor for the City of Becker. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony today in support of Senate File 67, exempting sales tax on the building materials for the Becker Police Department and City Hall project. The materials for the police department are exempt from sales tax pursuant to statute, so the city's request for this legislation is to exempt approximately $47,000 in sales taxes for the materials for the City Hall portion of the project. The original building was constructed in 1980 and added on to in 1996, with no work being done since then. So this is a generational project that will provide modern security improvements, such as a consolidated entrance that will replace 4 current public entrances, replacing the roof, updating building systems, and creating adequate staff space for years into the future. The city also appreciates this committee's past support of transition aid, and in 2025, it will be the first year we receive this aid due to the retirement of Unit 2 at the Sherco Generating Facility. Unit 1 will be retired at the end of 2026. Exempting the city from paying approximately $47,000 in sales tax for this project will help provide additional relief for the residents and businesses for this significant community project. I want to take this opportunity to thank Senator Mathews for authoring Senate File 67, and I thank the chair and the committee for allowing me the opportunity to appear before you today.
Questions or comments for Senator Mathews or the mayor on Senate File 67? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Senate File 67 will be laid over for possible consideration in the omnibus tax bill. Senator Mathews may stay where you are. You also bring us the next 2 bills. The first one is Senate File 69. With regard to Big Lake Public Schools. Senator Mathews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, my second bill is Senate File 69. These will all do similar things. But briefly, the same here, Section 1, Subdivision 1A, will give an exemption of the materials used to construct and renovate several schools in Big Lake. Dates set between December 31st of 2021 and January 1st of 2025. 1B is giving the tax issue as a refund, and Subdivision 2 is appropriating funds to the Commissioner of Revenue for the refund. So with me to testify to this is the Big Lake Superintendent, Tim Truenbach.
Okay, any questions for Senator Mathews before I turn to his testimony? Seeing none, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tim Trubenbach. I'm the superintendent of schools at Big Lake. Big Lake Schools Independent School District 727 consists of approximately 206 square miles and is home to approximately 3,200 pre-K through 12 students and families. The district is located approximately 42 miles northwest of the metro area. The district serves portions of Sherburne County and has a population of approximately 18,000. The population to be served by this project are the students, staff, and associated community in the Big Lake Schools attendance area. On November 2nd of 2021, the Big Lake community passed a $30 million bond referendum to restore and renew our school facilities. The following projects were determined to be the highest need by our facility planning committee, which was composed of community members as well as district leadership. Replacement of approximately 185,000 square feet of failing roofing materials, replacement of ventilation systems in our Independence Elementary School to address indoor air quality, installation of dehumidification systems for our high school activity spaces, parking lot modifications to address parent pickup and drop-off traffic, replacement of building heating, ventilation, and air conditioning controls that were failing, renovations of each school building's media center to better serve our students, and renovations and updates to areas that serve our special education departments to provide safe environments that better support their educational needs, and updates and enhancements to our career and technical education spaces and equipment to prepare our graduates for college and careers. Due to the unprecedented inflation we have experienced, some of our project scopes have had to be reduced in order to maintain the spirit of the referendum that was presented to our voters. Some of the project scope reductions include roofing system replacements. We had to limit updates and enhancements to our CTE spaces and equipment replacements, as well as some replacement of windows at our Independence Elementary School and replacement of wall and floor coverings that are due to be replaced in 3 of 4 schools. The passing of this one-time refund of sales tax for materials used in the construction and renovation of our facilities would allow us to get much closer to completing what we committed to our community when we would accomplish by providing enhanced equipment and opportunities to our CTE spaces, as well as replace additional building materials such as windows, roofs, doors, and some flooring. I would respectfully request your support of Senate File 69.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for Senator Mathews or his testifier? Seeing none, Senator Mathews, Senate File 69 will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. The next bill from Senator Mathews comes with a author's amendment. It is the A1 amendment, and it is to Senate File 70. Senator Weber moves the A1 amendment. It's an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails. Senator Mathews, Senate File 70 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My final one this morning is Senate File 70 for a bill for the school district in Becker, Minnesota. The amendment that we just adopted on is just changing a date to extend the date to January 1 of 2027. That's in Section 1, Subdivision 1A. This will now read for the dates to be between December 31st of 2021 to January 1st of 2027. And then the rest of the bill is similar to the others, giving this tax issued as a refund and appropriating funds to the Commissioner of Revenue for the refund. With me for this is the Superintendent of the Becker School District, Jeremy Schmidt.
Welcome to the committee, sir. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Jeremy Schmidt, and I'm the Superintendent of Becker Public Schools. I come to you today as an advocate of the future of our students, staff, and the entire Becker community. I want to thank you for allowing me the chance to speak with you today, and I want to thank Senator Mathews for authoring this bill. Senate File 70, a bill that will provide much-needed financial relief to our district through a refundable sales tax exemption for construction materials and supplies, similar to the previous couple of bills. Our district values these and needs these, limiting the tax impact, as you heard from our mayor about the Sherco shutdowns and decommissioning. I think that's really important to note for the Becker community. And just like other school districts, Becker Public Schools is a cornerstone of the community, and our facilities play a critical role in supporting the education, opportunities, and community events that our community so values. The proposed sales tax exemption would benefit the construction and renovation projects for our early education building, primary, intermediate, middle, and high schools, as well as our transportation building and multi-purpose athletic facilities. In November of 2021, our community showed overwhelming support by passing a $43 million bond referendum in a vote which had more yes votes than our previous total voters of the prior election. In addition, our school board unanimously approved a resolution supporting Senate File 70, demonstrating our leadership's strong commitment to this initiative. We planned a lot for inflationary opportunities and things that were coming up, yet the unforeseen impacts of COVID-19 greatly impacted us through supply chain disruptions and costs soaring over 25% over our already anticipated inflationary costs. This forced us to make difficult compromises and scaled back nearly every aspect of our projects. Some of these included using tile flooring instead of terrazzo or proper gym flooring, delaying critical roof replacements and improvements, and eliminated an inclusive playground and imagination play area that would have served our youngest learners and broader community. At our transportation facility, we had to opt for Class 5 gravel instead of asphalt, impacting long-term usability and increasing future maintenance costs. We also scaled back the size of that building, which also was highlighted this last week with the minus 30 and 40-degree temperatures, making sure we had enough space for our buses to be indoors. It's important to note that the public schools in Minnesota are generally exempt from sales tax. Minnesota Department of Revenue Sales Tax Fact Sheet 111 states that, and Senate File 70 addresses this unique situation where construction materials for real property improvements do not automatically qualify for this exemption because they are not directly purchased by the school district, but instead are procured through a construction management company. This bill is critical to closing that gap and ensuring our district is not unduly burdened. This isn't about luxury or excess. It's about providing the opportunities and the things that we promised our community. And Senate File 70 would allow us to restore the most critical elements of our project, including CTE upgrades, which help for future careers, repair to leaking roofs, and completing our early education center with an imaginative play area. It's also important to note that while our request was not approved last year, many other districts facing similar challenges with referendums in that same year of 2021 were granted relief. And your support for these districts demonstrates your commitment to equitable education across Minnesota, and we ask for that same consideration. In closing, I respectfully ask for your support of Senate File 70. By passing this bill, you'll help us bridge the gap created by unprecedented economic challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and ensuring our district can deliver its promise to our students and community. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Superintendent Schmidt. Are there questions or comments for Senator Mathews or the superintendent? Seeing none, Senate File 70 as amended will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 220, Senator Draheim on behalf of the city of Fairmont. There is an A1 amendment. Senator Miller moves the A1 amendment. All those in favor, it's an author's amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair Rest and members. Good morning. This morning, I bring forward Senate File 220, and it is for the city of Fairmont, also referred to as the City of Lakes. There's a chain of lakes that flow through the city. Sorry, members. Too many sheets of paper this morning. Section 1 of Senate File 220 provides the material and supplies used in the construction of a UV biosoil project in the city of Fairmont. and the dates between September 11th, 2024 through January of 27, and the exemption of the sales tax, sales and use tax for that. Subdivision 1B provides that the material and supplies used in the construction of a storage tank project in the city of Fairmont between January of 2025 and June of 26. And once again, exempt the sales tax and use tax, Madam Chair. Subdivision 1C provides that the material and supplies used in the construction of a public works building in the city of Fairmont purchased between May 31st of 21 through March 8th of 24 are exempt from sales and use tax. Subdivision 1D provides that the tax be used as a refund to the city, and Subdivision 2 approves the funds to the Commissioner of Revenue for the refund. The effective dates of the bill are in accordance with the dates of each project that I just described. And then, these important infrastructure projects, there's 3 there that are included in the bill, and with me to give you more detail is Public Works Director for the City of Fairmont, Matthew York.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. Could I ask a question of Ms. Pollock? Is the revenue estimate affected in any way by the A1 amendment?
Madam Chair, I would defer to Mr. Mumm on the revenue estimate.
Mr. Mumm?
Madam Chair and members, no, the revenue estimate is drawn to the bill as amended by the A1.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee, Mr. York. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we're happy to have your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew York. I'm the Public Works and Utilities Director for the City of Fairmont. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 220 for the City of Fairmont, and I'd also like to thank Senator Draheim for authoring the bill and his ongoing support of the city. The city is requesting a sales tax exemption for construction materials for several essential infrastructure projects, beginning with the city's Public Works building, now working on a portion of the city's wastewater treatment facility, which includes biosolids treatment and UV disinfection, and new ground storage tank for water. These projects are needed to provide safe and reliable services to our residents. The city needed a new public works building due to health and safety concerns and failing mechanical systems of the previous building, which was built in the 1950s, impacting the ability for the city to deliver essential services to our residents. The biosolids and disinfection system of our wastewater treatment facility, which will update our current UV light and disinfection system, is much safer than the harsh chemicals used in some plants. Lastly, the ground storage tank will replace 2 1930-era tanks and provide safe and clean and reliable water to our city. The city has made responsible investments in public infrastructure for our community, but the costs and impacts of these projects are felt heavily by our property taxpayers. This exemption would ease that burden. Thank you, Chair Rest, for hearing our request, and we hope that you will consider us as you continue your work over the next few months.
Are there any questions for Mr. York or for Senator Draheim? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Senate File 220, as amended, will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair and members.
The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 957. Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Welcome to the committee. Please proceed
Yes.
with referring to the sections in your bill and explaining it.
So I'm here today to discuss Senate File 957. Benton County seeks a new government center in Foley, Minnesota. Benton County would plan to finance the project primarily with the general obligation debt. The current estimated project cost is $29.1 million. The cost of materials is estimated to be $9.3 million. Relief from the sales tax construction materials will save the county taxpayers approximately $500,000. A brief overview of the bill. Section 1, subdivision 1A exempts taxes for construction materials, materials and supplies used in the equipment incorporated in the construction of the new government center in Benton County, in Foley in Benton County, purchased after March 31st, 2025 and before January 1st, 2030. Taxes are imposed and then collected and refunded, and the appropriate refunds from the general fund to the commission, it appropriates refunds from the general fund to the Commissioner of Revenue. I have one testifier here today, the County Administrator, Monty Headley.
Any questions for Senator Weisenberg? Seeing none, welcome to the committee. Mr. Headley, if you identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Montgomery Headley, County Administrator, Benton County. First, and members of the committee, I want to thank Senator Weisenberg for sponsoring that bill. I know you've got a lot on your agenda, so I'll be really brief. We've been studying this issue for about a year and a half now. We retain the services of an architect and construction manager to study our old buildings. If you've got the handout, you can see a picture of our current government center. It ranges from the old county courthouse built in 1903 to an addition built in the 70s, and the final addition was built in 1981. Interesting enough is our county boardroom actually used to be the county jail. So it was a very small county jail, and now it's a really small county boardroom. So again, our board took a very long, careful look at our existing buildings and looked at some of the costs to renovate, expand on the existing footprint, looked at some of the limitations and challenges of the existing buildings, and decided that really the best solution for our county and our taxpayers was a new government center. So about 2 years ago, we bought land in the city of Foley. If you're familiar with Foley, it's where the old Foley High School used to stand. It's right across the street from where our current government center. So we now own that land. And again, we've been engaged with a consultant, architectural firm and a construction manager, and we're actually moving towards final design. Our current schedule would have us moving into bidding in May and possible construction this summer. And my county board is really going to want me to stress, though, that final decisions have not been made to move forward with the building. Of course, they want to see how the bids come in May and see if it's favorable for us, see if it works. So I'm sure they would want me to stress that no final decisions have been made. You see, there's an architect's rendering of what the building could look like in your handout. A lot of advantages of the new building. It gives us one entrance to allow security screening. It allows for a separation between staff and public areas. It allows for abundant conference room space. One of the neat features of this new building would be a very large community room, so for use by the county and for groups that in the community that want to use it. If you're familiar with the Sauk Rapids Government Center, we were somewhat inspired by their community room, which is a very heavily utilized facility. As Senator Weisenberg noted, our estimated cost is about $30 million for this, financed primarily with capital improvement plan bonds. We have about $3 million in cash to throw into the bucket to help fund it. I wanted to point out one issue. I know we estimated quite some time ago that the sales tax savings would be about $500,000. I believe you all have received recently the fiscal analysis from the Department of Revenue, which I believe shows $320. And I just wanted to stress is our number was a very rough estimate from our construction manager from several months ago. And the DOR estimate is very recent. It's a more finessed, fine-tuned estimate. And I would expect you would rely upon that number rather than our earlier estimate. Again, thank you very much for your time this morning, and happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Headley, so you decided not to reconstruct, as it were, the 1903 building, and this building is going to be across the street from it?
Yes.
And so what's going to happen to the 1903 building?
That's a very excellent question.
Just curious.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Our board is very concerned about that, developing a viable reuse plan. So we've had conversations about possibly bringing in a nonprofit dental provider, a medical clinic to serve folks, underserved areas. We have the social services agency in Foley called CARE. They provide services to the elderly. They're interested in expanding their services and their footprint. So we think that's what this facility could become, is a center for various kinds of services, possibly dental, medical, senior services. So we want a really viable, good reuse plan for that facility, and that's really important to us. So it's definitely been a big subject of discussion with our county board.
Do you have, Mr. Headley, do you have preliminary plans on the cost of renovating it so that it meets, you know, certain
We did.
buildings?
I'm glad, Madam Chair, thank you for asking that question.
Because if you didn't
Our
want to, if
board
you
was
didn't want to
concerned.
do it for
Yeah.
the new county building because of how costly it was
Right.
in your own description, how is that going to work? Converting it to, you know, a community services, a medical clinic,
Sure,
and so
sure.
on? Who's going to pay for that?
Let me answer your first question, is we did get an estimate from our construction manager about what would it take to expand and renovate our existing buildings where it sits. It was between 23 and 24 million. So our board said, look, you know, the incremental cost of a new building and all the advantages that go with it are worth it. When it comes to renovating the existing building for other clients, other tenants, I think our board is going to look to those organizations to come up with the resources for the renovations. We don't see us doing that. Frankly, we would probably prefer to sell at some point the property to a nonprofit and let them manage it. I think that's the ideal situation for us.
Mr. Headley, that's a good answer. Thank you. Are there questions or comments for Senator Weisenberg or Mr. Henley? Seeing none, Senate File 957 will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next bill for consideration is number 10 on our agenda, Senate File 1155, Senator Anderson. Welcome to the committee.
Morning, Madam Chair. Morning, members.
Good morning.
Good to be here. Senate File 1155 is here on behalf of the city of Delano. I have with me the city administrator to give some updates. I do have some thoughts on what the Department of Revenue came forward as far as estimates on taxes for this. Looks like probably needs to be updated, but I'll let my constituent and testifier bring that testimony forward. So with that, I'll rend my comments to him.
The project, Senator Anderson, is the ice rink.
Correct.
That's it.
That's correct.
And
Yep.
that's what's in Section 1, Subdivision 1, a brief description of that building. And then you're saying you have some, you're questioning the revenue estimate?
Correct. The testimony that, well, and just talking with my constituent earlier, when they sent in the information regarding the ice rink and the numbers that they gave to the Department of Revenue, there was no money or costs or tax amount given to the Department of Revenue that they had given to them. And so this is coming from the department itself as to their estimate of they're saying $2.9 million of tax exemption, but the city of Delano did not give that information to the Department of Revenue. So it's just what they're coming with regarding the $7.2 million and the tax exemption from that. But I'll let
And Senator Anderson, that is the way these revenue estimates work.
Okay.
With information provided by the city, and the revenue estimate, if you want to challenge it, you need to talk to the Department of Revenue. It's not something that this committee makes any judgment about at all. We depend on the revenue estimates, and if information is different, then the city of Delano needs further discussion with the Department of Revenue, not with this committee. But we know what the project is, and we have a testifier, if you would identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Phil Kern. I am the city administrator for the city of Delano. Delano is located on the west edge of the metro area, approximately 7,500 people in Wright County. We're here today regarding Spirit Park, which is a multi-season community center that will support community gatherings, events, and functions in the city of Delano. The main feature of this project is an expansion of the community's existing ice arena to include a second covered and shield sheet of ice. The facility will also be used in non-winter seasons for other community events and functions. We utilize the design-build method of construction for this project, and as such, it wasn't possible to separate cost of construction materials from labor, and therefore we are asking for this refund of sales tax through this bill. As Senator Anderson mentioned, the $2.9 million estimate that the Department of Revenue had for construction materials may have come from an early rendition of this project. Now that we are in the throes of it, in the middle of construction, we do estimate that the overall construction materials will be around $4.5 million of that overall $7.2 million construction project. In Chair Rest, we will follow up with the Department of Revenue and make sure they have that updated information. A key element of your consideration of refunding sales tax will allow us to keep this project on track and focus on key items of access, accessibility, and support keeping the facility affordable for our community. The project, as I mentioned, is under construction. We're excited to have our grand opening in the second half of 2025. And with that, thank you for your allowing me the time this morning to address you, and we appreciate your consideration of this request.
Are there questions or comments for Senator Anderson or for the city administrator? Seeing none, Senate File 1155 will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
We're going to move on to number 12 on the agenda. Senator Nelson, Senate File 10. Is she here? I don't see her.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Senator Nelson, and you bring us Senate File 10, and we have an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, the A1 amendment is a date correction to more adequately describe the dates of the construction project.
It's an author's amendment. Senator Nelson offers the A1. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing this bill. It's refundable sales tax exemption for the Rochester Water Reclamation Plant. Members, you have that in front of you, Senate File 10. I also want to thank Senator Bolden for her co-sponsoring of this bill. And again, thank you for hearing. I'll give you just a very brief summary of the bill, and then I'll be glad to turn it over to my testifier. This, as I said, provides a refundable sales tax exemption for the materials, supplies, and equipment used in constructing, reconstructing, upgrading, expanding, renovating, or remodeling a water reclamation plant in Rochester. If you'll want to hear about the plan, it's pretty exciting. But you'll see that in Section 1, lines 1.7 through 1.9. And as I mentioned, as amended with the A1 amendment, I described the dates that those purchases would be eligible for the sales tax exemption. The third thing you will see is kind of the standard boilerplate language in Section 1, lines 1.12 through 1.14, and that just describes how it will be refunded under those particular statutes. And then It lists also, of course, line 1.15 through 1.16, that we're requesting these funds from the general fund to the Commissioner of Revenue. You'll see that. And then lastly, I mentioned the dates. And with that, Madam Chair, just a brief run through, if I could turn it over to my testifier, and then I'd be glad to give a few closing comments.
Sure. Welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we welcome your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Randy Schubring. I serve as the Rochester City Council President. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and the committee for hearing this bill, and also to Senator Nelson for authoring this bill and Senator Bolden for co-authoring it. We are so grateful for their bipartisan support on this important project and effort. This is a request for sales tax exemption on the construction materials that will be used for the City of Rochester's water reclamation plant, which other cities might call a wastewater treatment plant. The plant provides service to the 125,000 residents of Rochester, along with the 30,000 visitors daily who drive into Rochester and the 3 million visitors that visit Rochester each year. This current upgrade that is happening at our plant is a 3-year-long project that will update, modernize, and improve safety at our water reclamation plant. The overall project is expected to result in annual power consumption savings of $230,000 and $170,000 in annual chemical cost savings. This project is critical to providing clean water and meeting state requirements. It includes converting the existing high-purity oxygen plant and activated sludge plant into a single anaerobic oxic treatment plant configuration. Our Deputy Public Works Director is also online for any technical questions you may have about the project or our request. We are grateful for the committee's consideration and are available for questions. Thank you.
Let's see. If the other testifier would simply identify themselves on the record so that we can put it on the record, that would be great.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Aaron Luckstein. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Rochester.
Okay. Any questions for either Senator Nelson or Senator Luckstein, or Mr. Luckstein? Seeing none, Senate File 10 as amended will be laid over for a consideration in the omnibus tax bill. Senator Nelson, I wonder if you would just step aside for a moment. I did not see Senator Coleman in the
Absolutely.
in the room, and she was next.
Sure.
Madam Chair.
Senator Dibble.
Just wanted to extend our greetings to Senator Senjum, who's visiting us today in the Tax Committee.
Oh, yes. Hi. I'll formally recognize him in just a moment. Senator Coleman, I'm actually waiting for your constituent to return to the hearing room to see another constituent.
Oh.
One that I'm
One you might be related to, yes.
Okay. My brother, Mr. Hiller, is here hosting today at the Capitol 2 international exchange students to get a taste of what government is like in Minnesota. And Senator Coleman has had more than one conversation with him, and we appreciate that. I don't know if he's going to make it back, but anyway, Senator Coleman, you have the A1 amendment, and that is Senator Weber offers the A1 amendment. It is an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Coleman, Senate File 344, as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I missed this committee so much that I don't mind waiting longer, but I appreciate you squeezing me in. Thank you, members, for your time today to hear Senate File 344, a bill for a sales tax exemption on construction materials for the city of Chanhassen. I would like to start by briefly going over the bill, but then we'll have Mayor Ryan testify on behalf of the city. With the amendment adopted, some of the dates in my talking points have changed. So Section 1 of the bill would exempt the materials and supplies for the Chanhassen Bluff Sports Complex for the city, purchased, now amended between March 31st, 2026 and June 1st of 2028. Subdivision 1B provides that the funds be issued as a refund to the city, and Subdivision 2 appropriates the funds to the Commissioner of Revenue to be distributed to the city. This project has been a long time in the making and is a community facility that our residents have been asking for. We greatly appreciate you hearing the bill, which would reduce the financial impact of this project that will serve not only the residents of Chanhassen, but visitors from the region. I'd like to now turn it over to Mayor Elise Ryan from the city of Chanhassen.
Okay, first, just going back to the bill itself, the project is described on lines 1.9 in Section 1, and the amendment had the effect of just changing dates. So with that, if there are no questions for Senator Coleman, we welcome the testimony of the mayor of Chanhassen, Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Tax Committee. My name is Elise Ryan, and I am the mayor of the city of Chanhassen. I would like to thank you, Chair Rest, for hearing Senate File 344 to provide a sales tax exemption for the city of Chanhassen. I'd also like to thank Senator Coleman for authoring this bill and for her ongoing support of the city. We are asking for your assistance through a sales tax exemption for the city's construction of a new regional community facility that our residents have asked for. This facility will serve as a space for both residents and visitors to recreate and have access to wellness facilities and other social opportunities. This type of space is sorely needed in our community and our region. This exemption would lower the cost of the project and thus reduce the property tax impact in Chanhassen that this facility will impose. We understand that exempting our public projects from paying this tax requires money from the state, and we greatly appreciate you hearing Senate File 344 this morning and hope that you consider our request moving forward. Thank you.
Are there questions or comments for Senator Coleman or the mayor? Seeing none, Senate File 344 as amended will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. The next bill will return to Senator Nelson on behalf of Olmsted County, Senate File 732.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Nelson, we have an A1 amendment. Senator Nelson moves the A1 amendment. It's an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion prevails, and the amendment is adopted. We now have before us Senate File 782 as amended. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee for hearing this file. It is a refundable sales tax exemption for Olmsted County Exhibition Center, Senate File 782. And again, I want to thank Senator Bolden for her great co-authorship of this bill, and also thank you for hearing the bill. I'll give you just a brief summary of the bill, committee, and I know you're anxious to hear from my testifier following. Again, this provides a refundable sales tax exemption for material, supplies, equipment used in construction, reconstruction, upgrade, expansion, renovation, or remodeling of the Regional Exhibition Center at Graham Park. You'll see that in Section 1, lines 1.7 through 1.9. The amendment committee that we adopted make sure that that does include those outside pieces of the project as well. And then also in Section 1, lines 1 through 1.10 through 1.12 applies to purchases between December 31, 24 and January 1, 2028. It's, again, we have the boilerplate language about how the sales tax is collected and refunded according to current statutes. And then again, that boilerplate language about the general fund to the Commissioner of Revenue. And this is about $540,000 annually for 2 years of savings to taxpayers. With that, I'd like to turn it over, if I might, to my testifier, our former senator, my colleague, Senator, now County Commissioner, Dave Sengen.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Are there questions before we proceed to the testimony? Seeing none, indeed, welcome to the Tax Committee, former Senator and now County Commissioner Sengen. Many of us on this committee have enjoyed a relationship as a Senate colleague for a number of years, and we are always pleased to see you in our committee rooms. Commissioner Sengen, if you would like to add some comments about this bill.
Thank you so much, Senator Rest and members. It's fun to be back in Tax Committee, albeit on this side of the table. But I'm here today, first of all, certainly to thank Senator Nelson and Senator Bolden for their leadership on this bill, and thank you, Senator Rest, for hearing this bill this morning. This is about what we call the Regional Exhibition Center at Graham Park in Rochester. Graham Park is if you will, relatively new name for the Olmsted County Fairgrounds. It was constructed basically to replace dilapidated fairground kinds of buildings that have been there for years to support agriculture and 4-H relative to our county fair. But as we looked at the bigger picture along the way in terms of putting this facility together, while the fair occupies this building 1 week a year, we certainly plan for greater use of that building relative to shows and events and things like that as we go forward. The building is, and we maybe back up a half a step and say thank you, state legislature, for $8 million of bonding bill to go into this. There's an additional $34 million worth of money that Olmsted County is going to be putting into it to amplify it to the point that we feel needs to be amplified to make this really work. And by the way, the county board on Tuesday approved the design of this facility, and you have it in a handout. From here we go into construction documents, and so we're well on the way to making this happen, at least from the standpoint of planning and decisions. Again, a $42 million project, about 15 of that million is supposed for construction materials, and with a sales tax exemption proposal, that would amount to about $1 million reduction. And I would dare say, Madam Chairman, that will probably, Chairwoman rather, that will probably be eaten up in inflation before this thing is finished. It's just the way it is out there with respect to these kinds of projects. So appreciate you hearing the bill this morning, and certainly would very much appreciate your strong consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner. We also have Matt Miller on Zoom, who is the Facilities and Building Operations Director. I wonder if he would identify himself so that we can get his name in the record.
Madam Chair, members, my name is Matt Miller, Director of Facilities and Building Operations for Olmsted County.
Do you have any further comment?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Are there further comments or questions for Senator Nelson? Then thank you very much. Senate File 782, as amended, will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. The next bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Also,
members.
We will be welcoming as a testifier a former colleague. But this is Senate File 1077, Senator Putnam. And Senator Putnam offers Senator Putnam offers an author's amendment, the A2. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Putnam.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for hearing the bill. I also want to take a moment to thank Mr. Mumm for making sure that our dates were proper in the context of that amendment. He was incredibly diligent and very helpful.
Great.
Madam Chair and members, this might come as something of a shock, but I haven't spent a lot of time in jail. But I did go to the Stearns County Jail to tour it once, and if I have to go to jail, that's not where I want to go. It is dilapidated, it is archaic, it's kind of fallen apart. And so luckily our voters in this Stearns County voted to have a sales tax increase to create a new jail. Now members, jail and justice center. Members and Madam Chair, I know we've heard a lot of these bills today and we're going to hear a lot more, but obviously this one is the most important. And to explain why it is so important, I have two friends from Stearns County here to share a little bit about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for Senator Putnam? Then we will proceed to the testimony, and we certainly, I personally want to welcome Commissioner Bertram, with whom I served a number of years ago. We were starting to count them, but then we decided maybe we shouldn't do that. But anyway, welcome to the committee. Mr. Bertram is the County Board Chair for Stearns County. We welcome your testimony. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's very good to see a long-lost friend. And committee members, good morning. My name is Jeff Bertram. I'm District 3 County Commissioner in Stearns County, and I'm the Stearns County Board of Commissioners Chair. And with me today is Stearns County Auditor Treasurer Randy Schreifels, and also we're joined by our Assistant County Administrator Jill as well. Thank you for hearing this bill in Senate File 1077 pertaining to the exemption of the sales tax and materials for the construction of Stearns County Justice Center. Thank you to Senator Putnam and all of our co-authors and authors in the House and the Senate, which will be a group of Republican and Democrat making this truly a bipartisan bill. I was in the House in 1986 when the current facility was built and saw it from the ground up. And so this is kind of full circle for me personally in doing and asking what we're asking for. The Stearns County Justice facilities, including our jail and the law enforcement facilities and courtrooms, are decades old and cannot meet the requirements placed on it by the State Department of Corrections and also the judicial branch. The courthouse space is at the capacity, and the county is eligible for additional judges from the state, but they're not going to assign them without more space to accommodate them. In addition, another concern is when the current courthouse was constructed over 100 years ago, obviously the courthouse wasn't designed to meet the modern facility safety needs that today's environment requires. The jail lacks adequate space for the size of today's jail population. Even though Senator Putnam is not an inmate, we still need room. And thus, not yet, yes, thus costing the county $500,000 annually for us to place out-of-county prisoners housing and limited programming, which, because of that, limits our programming opportunities that contribute to reduced crime. We made our case to the residents of Stearns County, and in November, county voters approved the sales tax referendum overwhelmingly to fund the construction of a new justice center. I want to take a moment to thank Chair Rest for her work on making it more of a unified statewide process for bills like this, not to tie this committee up with efforts that have been approved by county boards and by referendums within the counties. And I think that's admirable work. So thank you, Madam Chair. The proposed Justice Center is being designed as a 510,000 square foot facility to meet the county's current and future justice system needs. And I'll ask Stearns County Auditor Treasurer Schreifels to explain what that will include.
Mr. Schreifel, welcome to the committee, and we're pleased to have your testimony. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Randy Schreifels, Stearns County Auditor Treasurer. So the facility will have 270 beds, expandable to 350 with one floor design and tiered housing units, as well as inmate health care and a medical health pod. There'll also be a 4-story courts tower holding 11 courtrooms, space for county attorney, law library, courts administration, and landing space for other judicial-related agencies. There'll also be space for the sheriff's office, emergencies management, and facilities management. The county asks for your support in exempting the construction materials and supplies purchased for this project from the state sales and use tax. Taxpayers are contributing directly to the fundings of this project through the local option sales tax. Charging sales tax on materials would effectively tax the tax, reducing the available budget and deterring our ability to maximize the use of public funds. Thank you for listening to our testimony today. Commissioner Bertram and myself are open to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Are there further questions or comments for Senator Putnam or his witnesses? Seeing none, Senator Putnam, Senate File 1077 as amended will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
We have 2 more bills. Next is Senator Housechild, 1089. The last bill will be mine, 1184. Senator Housechild, there is a author's amendment. Senator Housechild offers the A1. It's an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Housechild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just 1 second. Thank you, Chair Rest and members of the Tax Committee. Today I have for your consideration Senate File 1089, a bill that increases the state appropriation for Soil and Water Conservation District aid. Thank you for approving the author's amendment. This corrects a drafting error in the appropriation amount, changing the amount from $20 million to $22 million. I'd like to thank my colleagues for signing on as co-authors, Senator Putnam, Senator Rest, Senator Weber, and Senator Nelson. In 2023, the legislature created an aid program for soil and water conservation districts, a unit of government that is statutorily required. Many of you know about the work that soil and water conservation districts do because they are our boots on the ground partners working with private landowners across the country to protect our beautiful water and ensure soil health for generations to come. Last biennium, SWCD aid was initiated at $15 million per year for the first 2 years, and beginning in July 2025, the aid will drop to $12 million per year. This bill would address this drop in funding and contemplates fully funding SWDCs at a level of $22 million per year. With an increase in soil and water conservation district aid, SWCDs stand to lose about 20% of their funding, averaging out to around $40,000 per district. This loss of funding will result in diminishing capacity to execute projects, leverage federal grants, and employ staff. Soil and water conservation districts are incredibly efficient and provide a huge return on investments for the state. These funds will help communities and private landowners work to preserve and protect land across the state. And with that, Madam Chair, I do have a testifier with me today.
Certainly. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Vanny. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we're pleased to have your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Sheila Vanny, Assistant Director with the Minnesota Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. I want to thank Senator Housechild for carrying the bill and for the co-authors that really show the bipartisan support for Soil and Water Conservation District workload statewide. I want to call attention to one of the handouts that should be in your packet, very colorful item that really, I think, encapsulates the wide spectrum of work that soil and water conservation districts undertake across the state. So our state association represents the 440 elected SWCD supervisors and their over 470 conservation staff who all have the goal and mission of working on water quality issues and soil health, keeping our landscapes productive and healthy. As Senator Hochschild pointed out, we are facing a dilemma in the funding for SWCDs, starting with aids payable in 2025. It's critically important that that level does not decrease. So we are looking for your help, Madam Chair, as I'm sure you will have some difficult targets and funding decisions to make as you go forward here in session. We appreciate your consideration of this funding request. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Vanny. Are there comments or questions for Senator Hochschild or Ms. Vanny? Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I don't know if it's really for the author or the testifier, but we have funded this area in the past from legacy funds. And I think we need to think about, members, what we have in the Constitution. It says, shall supplement but shall not supplant. And so what has happened here is let's look at our budget situation. This is a really good thing that we should be doing more of. And in my opinion, it should be coming from legacy funds because that's exactly what they were meant to do. But we had it funded from legacy funds, and the legislative infrastructure or the citizens groups with them that make these decisions around legacy, they threw a fit because we took away their authority in distributing the legacy money by saying this is important and it should come from legacy funds. So what we have done now is we have created a precedent, Madam Chair, and we have funded it with legacy funds, and now we funded it with general fund money. So any effort to go back and fund it with legacy funds is going to be met with, you are supplanting. And we've created a precedent here. And this happens in programs over and over again. I don't know what the answer is, Madam Chair, but it's confounding for some of us that would like to do this, Senator Hochschild. And I agree with you on the need. I think the right place to do this, I think this is what the legacy amendment was for. I was here when it was passed. Well, I was in the legislature when it was passed. I was paying attention too, Madam Chair. And it was passed for exactly this type of stuff. And we have people on the grounds in all of our counties actually moving dirt and doing the things that need to happen in order to protect our soil and water. And we should be able to get this money to them. And I think we're handcuffing ourselves because of the precedent that's happened and our allowance to allow that supplant word to stifle us here in the legislature. And I don't know, do we have to change the Constitution in order to do that? Of course, it'll be up again in 2034, and maybe that should be considered. But because of the way that we have formed the committees that make this decision with Lessard Sams and Clean Water Council, if we ever encroach upon their territory, they nip our fingers and kick us out of there. And that's what happened here. And that's too bad, because we're going to be seeing a budget deficit coming up now. We might not be able to do this, and this should be done. That's all I had, Madam Chair. Just some comments around it. I don't know what the answer is, but collectively we got to figure it out, because these types of, this is exactly what the legacy money was for, and we're not doing it there. It's shameful that we're not doing it from there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. Senator Hochschild, any comment?
Madam Chair and Senator Drazkowski, I do appreciate the comments, and I, from my recollection, and I am a newer member, so I wasn't there for all of those conversations and efforts that you were a part of and others may have been a part of. But it is my recollection, and I'll let my testifier comment as well, that there was a hope for sort of more consistency in the funding coming this way, rather than having to request the funds and play a political game about whether or not they would get the funding. Now, you could make the argument in reverse that right now we're facing those difficult decisions regardless, but I do think there was some more uncertainty when it came to the legacy funds, but I'll let my testifier maybe comment on that given the historical context.
Ms. Fanning?
Madam Chair and members, yes, thank you, Senator Hochschild. That's exactly correct. And the Clean Water Fund and the other legacy funds undergo a zero-based budgeting exercise, essentially. And so the slate is wiped clean each biennium for the Clean Water Funds. The Clean Water Funds may be a dedicated source of funding, but they've never been dedicated to any particular entity or program. And so every 2 years, there's a reassessment of how those funds should get spent. And there was no predictability for the soil and water conservation districts who have ongoing obligations. And it's very difficult to plan ahead and make sure you're adequately staffed with that kind of looming uncertainty. So we did look at a state aid to be more predictable, understanding that, yes, there are dilemmas that we are faced with at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Vannie. Senator Drazkowski again.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think the testifier makes the point. We have the ability, we could have ongoing revenue stream from the Clean Water Fund exactly for this. If we had the fortitude as a legislature in the past to do it, but we were timid in the face of these two citizen and legislator groups that we formed around this. And they do this on an ad hoc or on a zero-based budget approach each and every time, and we yielded to them and that in the decisions around the funding from these two portions of the legacy money. And because of that, we're in this conundrum now. And Senator Hochschild, you're right. This is probably going to be a short-term thing when we run into $5 billion deficit. This is probably going to fall off. I'm not going to want this to fall off as I look at the priorities of government out of the general fund, but it probably will, just given the perspective that I have over time here. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Drazkowski, don't count me out on that, okay? I said, don't count me out on that, okay? Thank you very much. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to echo what Senator Drazkowski mentioned. Ms. Vanning was in my office a few weeks ago, and I have always indicated that I felt there was more uncertainty in the general fund than there was with the legacy funds. I totally approve of the projects that they work on. They actually accomplish something rather than legacy funds just fostering another study that gets put in a drawer somewhere and that doesn't really produce a meaningful result. And when she was in my office, I said I would support their request, but I mentioned I also reserve the right to say, I told you so. And so, with that, Madam Chair, that's what I had to say.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Senator Hochschild. Someone else. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comments are similarly and thoughts along the lines of my colleagues. And I just want to note that while I'm highly supportive, obviously, of the SWCDs and glad to be a co-sponsor on this bill, we did have these discussions about it's unusual for someone to seek competitive funding in the general fund as opposed to dedicated funding. But I think we have to listen to the boots on the ground and the people in the field, which is what I did in supporting this bill. Well, I think there's going to be more competition in the state general budget than dedicated funding in clean water legacy funds. Yeah, the experts who are doing this and who are tasked and accountable for the important things they do have felt that it's more advisable in their budgeting and planning to actually have it in the general fund. So while if I was in charge of the SWCDs, I might want to have it in the dedicated funding. That's not where we are. And I trust the leadership to make good decisions there. And I am not counting you out, Madam Chair, when it comes to SWCDs. This is important work. And most importantly, it is so locally driven. I've worked with our SWCDs in my counties, and there's nothing like it as far as so very much locally driven by what's happening on the ground in those individual counties, and what are some very innovative, sometimes less expensive ways to get better results. So thank you. I understand the concern over not using those dedicated legacy funds, but I am highly supportive of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator Housechild, Senate File 1089 as amended will be laid over for consideration in the omnibus tax bill. Oops, sorry.
Welcome to the committee. Senator Rest, Senate File 1184 is before the committee. You have an author's amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the A1 amendment.
Senator Rest offers the A1 author's amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? A1 is adopted. Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin on the bill, I do want to, I mentioned earlier, two international high school students who are here from Chaska and accompanied by their host for the day, who happens to be my brother. They are sitting right over there, and they are Marcos Alonso from Spain and Jacob Zacharias from Germany, and I hope that you will take the occasion to welcome them. Senate File 1184 is once again a sales tax exemption, but it's really involving projects of a very different kind than we have from other local governments, and comes from the Metropolitan Airports Commission and their expansions and improvements at the International Airport, Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. You can see that the revenue estimate is a large one. They have great and long-term plans for the airport, and I think every time you go out there, it's you see evidence of the improvements and new construction dedicated truly not only to this great airport, but to the amenities and the outreach to all the passengers that make use of the airport. And so on Section 1, Subdivision 1, we are talking generally about a number of projects at the airport, and they go over a period of years, and you can see what those costs are in the revenue estimate. And Mr. Chairman, I have a testifier. Once we finish with this bill, I do have some announcements to make.
Welcome to the committee, Mr. Killian. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thanks, Senator Reston. Good morning, Chairman Klein and committee members. Mitch Killian with the Metropolitan Airports Commission. I'd like to just kind of identify a couple of differences in this bill. Although it seems similar to the bills you've been hearing today and over the last couple of weeks about sales tax exemptions on construction material, I'd make the comment and like to explain that the impact to the state is quite different. So let me begin by explaining what kind of occurs today. Today, when the Airports Commission has large capital projects at MSP, we go out for bonds for them to borrow the money for those projects. We borrow in the terms of airport revenue bonds, so they're not backed by general obligation bonds. We don't come to the state for bonding. We operate independently, and we actually back them with airport revenues. When we go out and bond, we actually have to borrow the additional construction material sales tax money. So it increases the cost of the bonds that we end up borrowing for. And over the terms of a 30-year bond, we actually pay interest on that money as well. So we're increasing the cost of all that construction out there. Once you pass this bill, we not only won't have to borrow that money for the state sales tax on construction material, but we won't pay the interest to the bondholders over that time. Instead, what would occur is we'll be able to pour that money back into our capital projects, both the sales tax part and the interest that the bondholders would have received, and we'll create additional construction jobs and enhance and retain our existing air service. So our contention would be this is a very good investment of the state. It'll generate additional economic activity, and we'll actually feel one of the most important economic generators in the state. So thanks. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Killian. I observe that you have bipartisan authors. Senator Rest, attesting to the strength of the bill. Other questions or comments from the committee? Senator Rest.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that testimony, I just want to report how much the impact of having the cumbersome way, even though it is necessary, of providing the sales tax exemptions in law to local governments. And to date, of all the bills that we have heard, the total, if we were able to grant them all, is $67,680,000. Almost $68 million. Now, even if we take the really extensive construction is going on out at the airport, it would still be, of all these other local governments, $50 million. $50 million in one-time costs. And we will be having to make, obviously, in this committee, some very difficult decisions about those sales tax exemptions, and I hope to work with Senator Weber in addressing what those needs are, as well as the rest of you, but in particular with looking at these projects with Senator Weber. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I ask you to lay the bill over.
Senate File 1184 as amended is laid over for possible inclusion. Announcements, Senator Rest.
Thank you very much. Next week's schedule, on Tuesday, we're going to be hearing Senate File 769, House Child, on data centers. On Wednesday, we're going to be hearing the LST bills, and there'll be a couple of amendments to that, as well as in accompanying that, two bills also from myself, Senate File 44 on a vendor allowance, and Senator Gustafson's 172, which is a small business allowance. On Thursday, we will be hearing Senate File 1312, which will be dealing with SAF, the Sustainable Aviation Bill. There will be amendments to that, too, in terms of what the credit will be with regard to that. And I wanted to let you know that we're going to have a deadline for both tax increment financing bills and any other STE bills that they have to be to the reviser by March 7th. That's a Friday. Friday, March 7th. You have to have, and members, and we will make this announcement more public, to have that language to the reviser by then in order to be held, in order to be heard in this committee. And then we have, as of this day, heard 81 bills in this committee, and the Republicans are winning. They have had, we have heard 45 Republican bills and 36 DFL bills, and next week, we're hoping to catch up. So thank you very much, and Mr. Chairman, you may adjourn the committee.
The Committee on Taxes is adjourned.